This video is sponsored by Mel Chemistry, an awesome monthly subscription with fun, educational, and safe experiments for kids and parents to do at home. It comes with everything you need to get started, plus 90 experiments on over 30 chemistry topics delivered right to your door. Click the link below to get 25% off your first month, and make sure you stay tuned for a chance to win a free subscription at the end of the video.
One compound I've been aiming to make for a while now is rubber. And I attempted to grow some specially bred Russian dandelions a previous year in the hope that I could extract some other latex. Unfortunately, it seems that growing specific dandelions when you want them is harder than you think.
Nothing really grew.
But then I got a suggestion from a Reddit user, Fartgas, from my subreddit about using a wildflower that's been explored as a source of latex for rubber, Goldenrod, that grows abundantly naturally here in Minnesota, and once you learn what it looks like, you realize it grows everywhere. So I harvested a small field of it to see what I could extract. Rubber is a polymer, and earlier this year I explored another polymer, polylactic acid, or PLA.
We already have a big ball of polymer. We'll call it a polymer.
With the help of the Center for Sustainable Polymers at the University of Minnesota. So I recruited a few of the guys I met there to test run and help me with the creation of this polymer, Guillaume and David.
Get loose. That's how you get loose professionally.
All right. So today we are going to be making rubber from scratch. And natural rubber is usually extracted from rubber trees. A rubber tree produces a lot of rubber and it's really easy to tap, and you can get out the rubber kind of like sap out of a maple tree. But unfortunately, rubber trees don't grow in most places in North America and certainly nowhere in the US. Early in the 20th century, the US government put a lot of effort behind trying to identify another plant that also contains latex rubber that grows in this sort of climate. A lot of plants have latex rubber.
So I'm gonna go ahead and nip this rubber plant stem here near the leaf, and we're gonna see this substance come out.
You'll get a white liquid coming out, and that's actually latex rubber. It turns out that after a lot of study by people including Thomas Edison, one of the plants that grows readily in North America that has the highest percentage of rubber is actually goldenrod. So today we are going to take these and extract the rubber.
Decent read.
Pretty good.
In order to extract the rubber, we can't really do it in this form. We have to grind them up into really small bits, and then we're gonna go ahead and put the ground up leaves into an extraction apparatus, which is gonna extract a lot of the compounds we don't want, and then we'll move on to a second step where we can extract the actual rubber. More poofing.
Not poofing enough for Guillaume.
Okay, so now we have our ground plant matter, and now we're gonna need to extract all the compounds we don't want, which are fats, oils, and chlorophyll. So we're gonna stuff some cotton in this little neck, and to do that, we're gonna put the plant matter in this bulb here. That's gonna be our extraction vessel. And then down here in this flask, we're gonna have a reservoir of acetone. This is all gonna go on a hot plate. So the acetone's gonna boil up, condense over the plant matter, go down, extract compounds. Contaminated acetone is gonna fall back down, and then we're gonna have fresh acetone coming up, boiling over, and it's going to continuously extract from the plant matter. Yesterday, we took our plant matter and we extracted all the compounds that we didn't want with acetone. And then once it's done, we get this nice ground powder, which actually smells very little like plant matter. And if you actually take a little bit of this and soak it in acetone, you can see that there's no color change. The acetone stays clear, which is a good sign.
So the last step is going to be pulling out what we want, which is the latex rubber, technically known as polyisoprene. That's a molecule that's really soluble in toluene. So what we're going to do is take this plant matter, load it up into our flask, put it into some toluene and boil it. Then we'll filter off the plant matter and we should be left with the latex rubber inside of the toluene.
I know you feeling this. I know you feeling this.
Football. See the bounces.
It's actually sticking.
I'm actually impressed it bounces that high.
Next, I'll be going through the process myself, but at a large scale. But first, a message from our sponsor.
Today I'm going to be trying the rocket fuel experiment from Mel Chemistry. First I'm going to prepare a mixture of an oxidant, calcium nitrate tetrahydrate, and a fuel, potassium hexacyanoferrate trihydrate, together. Since the crystals of both compounds contain some water molecules, I'm going to heat the mixture to make this water evaporate. Now I'm going to extinguish the candle since the mixture is completely dry. Now I'm going to ignite the mixture. Stay tuned for your chance to win a free subscription at the end of the video.
Alright, so Guillaume and Dave were able to produce a test batch, make a little bit of rubber, proving there is latex in them and it is possible to actually make some rubber, so this should work. Now we're going to scale it up, try and extract the latex from all the leaves I collected and hopefully make a ball. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see how big it is.
First, to smush all the dry leaves I had collected. Then I had Annalise grind them even finer.
Rigged up this guy with 2 paint cans, punched a bunch of holes in the bottom, shove some rods in there. So inside the bottom, the solvent will be put here. This will be put onto a hot plate, and then they'll turn to a gas and go through the holes of a glass bowl of ice water. They will cool it and cause it to condense and drip back down and recollect at the bottom. And it'll just cycle over and over and over again. And it's gonna be 2 processes. So we'll start with an acetone, remove all the solubles we wanna get out of the way, and then we'll move on to the toluene, which will extract just latex, and that will give us the rubber and make a nice ball.
After running for a few hours, it's time to test the batch and see if everything is removed. After finally turning out relatively clear, I move the first batch of leaves to the second extraction.
It's clear. I think that's a bad sign.
The paint can setup didn't seem to work as well for the second phase of the extraction, so I returned to the method Guillaume and David used with just glassware, which allows me to see whether it's working or not. This will take quite a few more batches and slow everything down. After several hours, strain and reload with the next batch. Then evaporate off the toluene and leave just the latex rubber behind. Now back to Guillaume and David for some help with the final step of the rubber production.
Should I mention Goodyear and like go a little historical briefly?
I love historical polymer chemistry. Once we've used the toluene, which is our non-polar solvent, to extract the polyisoprene, what we have are a lot of these small polyisoprene polymer chains dissolved in this non-polar solvent. So once we get rid of the excess toluene, what we're left with is a concentrated mix of these polyisoprene chains. Now these chains are pretty short, and so they actually tend to flow. They're a little bit liquidy. They get pretty solid at room temperature, but they're sticky and they tend to droop. So if you rolled it up into a ball, it would actually creep over time, is what we call it, where it would flow down into a little puddle.
So in order to get this rubber to hold its shape, we need to change its structure in some way, or change the chemistry of it in some way. Charles Goodyear actually did this allegedly by accident. So what he did was he took some natural rubber, he put it into a pot, and then he added some sulfur, which you can get from sulfur ore, which Andy has gotten in a previous video. It blew up. And what Charles Goodyear did is he forgot this mixture while it was heating, and he came back to a hardened rubber that did not droop. That process later became known as vulcanization and led to a bunch of useful rubber materials. And so what we've made is this mold, and so we have these two half spheres, and we're gonna load them up with the rubber, and what we're gonna do is crimp it all together with some holes in the top to relieve any pressure, and we're gonna heat it up with the sulfur in there, and it's gonna vulcanize into a bouncy ball.
What could possibly go wrong?
Absolutely nothing.
Now to attempt the vulcanization myself, and hopefully mold it better than my previous attempts at molding PLA.
Got about 30 grams. Started with a little bit over a kilo of leaves, so the yield not super high, around 3%, I believe. It's kind of what I was expected. It's a black, gooey mess. I'm gonna vulcanize it by mixing in some sulfur, put it into the mold, and then bake it to turn it into vulcanized rubber. Then we'll give it a bounce. I just do this like cold stone.
Exactly like cold stone. It'd actually be even better if we have an actual cold stone.
Should we go to cold stone and see if they'll let us make some rubber? Seems pretty gooey. Bake it again.
Yep, stick it back in.
All right, so now I have a completed rubber ball made from goldenrod leaves. It took a few attempts at baking it to finally get it hot enough to finally vulcanize into something solid. It ended up like swelling, a bit of an air pocket in the middle, so it got the full shape of the ball, but it's hollow on the inside, which is probably gonna affect its bounciness. I took some of the leftover resin and used that to patch in some of the cracks and holes in it, so it's pretty solid now. Now it's time for the real test. Drop it from some height and see how well it bounces. Might not be up to commercial grade quality, but it definitely bounced. It's definitely rubber.
Thanks again to Mel Science for sponsoring this video. Here are the 3 winners from our previous quiz. To enter to win, just answer the question in the comments. Though calcium nitrate is flammable in this experiment, it is not flammable on its own. In what product is calcium nitrate most commonly used? Put your answers in the comments below for a chance to win a free 6-month subscription to Mel Chemistry.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out other content we have covering a wide variety of topics. Also, if you've enjoyed these series, consider supporting us on Patreon. We are largely a fan-funded channel and depend on the support of our viewers in order to keep our series going. Thanks for watching.